Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose, and apparently Nintendo is furious right now, and so much so that they're pulling their hair out. Yeah, this is a story that's been going around, which I view as maybe overly dramatic. I don't necessarily agree with it entirely, nor do I completely disagree. I think there's a much more reasonable middle ground to this story, which I'll get to today, as well as yet another Xbox leak. This could actually be the first hardware sighting for Xbox Project Helix, so stick around for all of that. But first, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go get right into things, though, starting off with Alinea Analytics. We have talked about them a lot on the channel because, they post sales estimates for video games, but I have noticed that they do have some naysayers online. Some people refuse to believe that their estimates might be close to reality, but according to Jeff Grubb, they absolutely are a good source. In a recent Giant Bomb podcast, he briefly talked about them, and he mentioned that he has talked to people within the industry, and he was told that they're not necessarily perfect, but they are pretty good and a lot closer than anybody else. So there you go. I feel like the way these conversations typically work online is that, if somebody is happy with the sales estimate that they give, then they're correct. But if they're not, then, well, they're not correct. I think a lot of people are just looking for confirmation bias, but it is nice to see that we have a somewhat reliable source in the industry that can help us gauge if a game is successful or not. I do feel like the game industry tends to be a little bit too secretive at times, and a source like this tends to help out with that situation, even if it's just by a bit. Now, we also got an update for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. It's been in theaters for a little while now, and it's tracking towards $1 billion, which is extremely impressive. I think that just goes to show you the brand power that Nintendo and Mario have. But here's the thing. It's about ready to make them a lot more money because its digital release is set for next week on May 19th. Now, if you do prefer a physical copy, which also comes with a digital license as well, I do think it's the better bang for your buck if you're willing to wait, but regardless, it will make its debut in June. So if you do want that physical release, then you're not going to have to wait all that long. It's only about a month apart from the digital launch. Either which way, though, Nintendo is really onto something here. They're making waves in the film industry, and I fully expect a lot more from them going forward. We'll probably see a lot more of their IP in theaters, whether that be something like Zelda, Metroid, Pikmin, Donkey Kong, and the list goes on and on and on. Their brand power is about ready to just explode even that much more, which is crazy to think about, but that's the positive side when it comes to these game-to-film adaptations. If done right, they can absolutely boost a gaming IP, and we've already actually seen a few examples of that. Franchises like Fallout and The Witcher also saw a big-time boost, and now Nintendo is fully on that train as well. Oh, and Grand Theft Auto 6's pre-order date may have leaked a bit early. According to a Best Buy email that was sent out to multiple people, which has since been verified, its pre-orders will open up on May 18th. So, we're talking about next week, and people are going absolutely ballistic over this. Take-Two's stock has skyrocketed, which, does make sense. This does kind of indicate that a new trailer could possibly be inbound, and that Take-Two can finally make some money on what's potentially the most hyped-up game of all time. And not only that, but that it will actually release this year after all. Even for myself, I have said various times on this channel that I expect it to get another delay into 2027, and I know a lot of other people feel that way as well because Rockstar and Take-Two haven't exactly given us a lot of information to believe otherwise. If anything, it's really been the opposite. They keep giving us these release dates, then, we hear about it was just overly ambitious, followed by a delay. So why would this time be any different than all of the other delays? That's why a lot of people are still skeptical, but if pre-orders actually open up next week, as Best Buy has indicated, then that is a pretty good sign for GTA 6's release this year. Now, at the same time, I would still take this news with a grain of salt. Yes, the email itself has been verified, but whether or not Best Buy made a mistake, that's a different story. So proceed with at least some caution, but let me know what you all think. Are you excited about GTA 6, and do you think that it will actually release in 2026? All right, now let's just go and talk about Nintendo here for a moment, though, because reportedly they are furious over the latest Switch 2 leaks. So I'm talking about Star Fox and the Zelda Ocarina of Time remakes. If the first was true, then, that second is likely true as well, which is incredibly exciting in its own right. And that's kind of my thing about this entire story. Like, I understand that Nintendo is probably, yes, very upset about their leaks, and they probably want to know who exactly is leaking this information in the first place. I mean, if they find that person internally, whether singular or plural, yeah, heads will probably roll. However, there has been a story that's been going around, and you can read it here. This was posted up by IGN, and they said, Star Fox, Zelda Ocarina of Time Switch 2 leaks are a worst case scenario for Nintendo. Former staff say that hype is now very much dwindled. Now, this information apparently comes from Kit Ellis and Krista Yang. They said that if you're Nintendo, you're obviously pulling your hair out at this. This is a worst case scenario. You're the company that banks on surprising people. The element of surprise is a major factor of why announcements are impactful, and now that has been taken away, presumably for a while. The fact that many fans now expect a Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time remake this Christmas now means that Nintendo has a harder job meeting expectations built up over months, with many fans already forming opinions on how the game should be updated and how it should look. Inevitably, not all of those fans will have their expectations met. And let me tell you this much right now. I think this is the most ridiculous connection that they could have linked to why Nintendo is furious about these leaks. I mean, let's just be honest for a moment. There's no world in which an Ocarina of Time remake, a remake of one of the most praised games of all time, really one of the most impactful games of all time, has zero expectations built up. I mean, there's literal remake demos plastered all over YouTube. So this idea that this leak has somehow muddied expectations for a remake that fans have been begging for over a decade, they've been building their own remakes themselves, is beyond absurd. And even worse is that they said that Star Fox's announcement was dwindled because of the leak. And that's not true either. If anything, the leak built up awareness that Nintendo definitely did not give us, and it built up hype for its announcement. I mean, if anything dwindled its hype, it was that it's a remake instead of a brand new game like a lot of people wanted. Or, for some people, it's that they don't love the new character designs. I mean, that has absolutely nothing to do with the leak. It's just that fans don't love those specific ideas, and that's solely on Nintendo and the decisions that they made for this game. So I don't know. I just feel like this entire story is overly dramatic, and it doesn't even make sense. Again, Nintendo is absolutely upset about the leak. That much I agree with, but I don't need former Nintendo employees to tell me that. I know that based on my own logic. I'm sure that Nintendo wants to find the source for these leaks because they don't want this type of stuff to happen. But to say this is a worst case scenario for Nintendo, I can guarantee you that these leaks are not hurting these games or their hype whatsoever. These are remakes for some of the most iconic games of all time, and the only thing that can hurt them is Nintendo's own design choices, which we're kind of seeing that with Star Fox, but even still, people were still buying it in droves. People were still very excited because the gameplay looks excellent. Just not everybody loves the character designs. So again, it's just all a matter of what Nintendo chooses to do with these games, and I'll simply leave it at that. But these leaks absolutely are not impacting the hype for either one of these games. Just an absolutely ridiculous story, in my opinion. Now, one last thing before we go, though, because yet another Xbox controller leaked online. We, of course, talked about their cloud controller yesterday. If you missed that video, it's a smaller, more compact design, which fits the idea that you can, take it on the go with you and play your cloud games that way. Plus, it can connect directly to Xbox's cloud service, which will cut down on latency. That's always a very welcome addition. So I do think it's a good idea, but for this new leak, this is the one that I'm a lot more excited to talk about because this is their Xbox Elite 3 controller. Now, I'll go ahead and say firsthand, I am not the biggest fan of their Elite controller series. I think they're very good for what they are, but I have run into some quality issues with them in the past. And for as much money as they cost, they're just not for me personally. I'll stick with their standard controllers, which I think are perfectly fine as they are. Now, with that said, the reason that this leak interests me so much is because this very well might be the first new hardware sighting for Xbox Project Helix. And I say that because on the bottom of the controller, you might notice that it has two scroll wheels similar to what you would see on a mouse. And what is Xbox doing with their next console? We've been talking about this for years. It will be a PC console hybrid. So these scroll wheels could actually offer a different form of functionality for them. It could be used in certain games, especially PC games, but maybe also be used to navigate certain PC storefronts. Now, that's just a theory on my part, but whatever the case may be, this very well might be our first look at a new Xbox Project Helix controller. What do you all think about this, though? Do you like the look of the new Xbox Elite controller, and what do you think about these scroll wheels on the bottom? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode, but until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.